Throughout the year, we like to touch on different stories in the world of hockey, and we've reached out to Nick Guerriero, who is the Assistant Athletic Director for the Tennessee State Tigers Hockey Club in Nashville, Tennessee. The club is not yet on the ice, but we'll talk about that with Nick momentarily. Nick, Tennessee State is launching a club hockey team, and just tell us why that's important that this team is hitting the ice.
Thank you for having me. Tennessee State is going to become the first HBCU, which stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities, which are schools that were started during segregation in the United States that were created for affirmative action. Tennessee State is one of those specific universities, obviously in Nashville. We are going to become the first HBCU to have an ice hockey program. It's such a great story, and the reason we're doing it is because what we've seen in the NHL and through junior hockey is that there's not enough diversity of players on the ice, but also that when you look at some of these teams, there may be one player of color, two players of color, but not enough for them to, as individuals, sometimes feel comfortable. Sometimes they may feel intimidated by their peers. We're trying to change that completely and give them all a safe space to play. And that's why we're looking for kids to come down and play with us in Nashville. We're going to start out as a club team for the first year or so. And when you think about what an NCAA team and a club team is, the only difference is that on the club side, they can't receive athletic funding where they would get university funding compared to when they're varsity NCAA world, where you would get that athletic aid and grant. If some of the fans are thinking and understanding about the Ivy Leagues and the Dartmouths and Yales and Harvards, it's a little bit like that, but we won't be playing the NCAA teams. We'll be playing other universities that don't offer athletic aid to their players.
What kind of backgrounds do players typically have that play club hockey in college? How high-level players are we talking about prior to their time playing club hockey?
A lot of the guys that'll play in the club hockey world are kids that are going to come out of the second tier and the third tier in Canada, and in the U.S. the same thing with the Premier League, not the elite and the NA League. You may see some players that have played at a higher level, but the difference is that in the club side, you're not allowed to play club hockey if you've ever made money or have worked and signed with an agency. With the NCAA world, if a kid played a year for Sarnia, now he wants to come down to play at BC, you can do that. In the club level, you have to be 100% amateur.
As you said, it's important to grow and make hockey more accessible. I guess the goal would be maybe set off a chain of events where you'd have a number of HBCUs that were icing hockey clubs. What does the student body look like? Is it still primarily black students, all black students? Will they be the ones that will be jumping on the ice for this new team?
HBCUs have always been a predominantly students of color enrollment. Over the last couple of years, HBCUs have kind of not essentially changed their way of marketing or their way of admissions, but HBCUs now, the best way to look at it would be they are schools for inclusion and equity. They are schools for people that may not just be black and brown. They may be indigenous. They may be players with disabilities or students from the LGBTQ community. Tennessee State right now, from its statistics number, is 80% black, 20% between white, Hispanic, Asian population, West Indies. It's not really changed the number too dramatic, but yes, there are white kids that come from New York or from California that are at Tennessee State. Some of our coaches and professors are Caucasian, myself being from New York City, obviously. And when we look at what we're trying to do on this hockey team, we understand that is it going to be easy to put 25 to 30 players of color on a roster that is going to be a competitive team? Probably not. We do understand that we are going to have to look across the scope of all different types of players. And currently right now I'm up in Toronto. I just spoke at the Carnegie Institute, and I've gotten to meet different types of people here. We know Scarborough is a very big market for black hockey, but even speaking to people from the indigenous parts of Canada, hearing about their stories, about their players that want to have an opportunity to maybe come down to the U.S. and play as well.
What does the process of building a club hockey team look like? How much of this is traditional recruiting, and how much of it might be, this is a player who was a pretty decent hockey player that happens to be going to this school, and they're going to jump in there and try to make the team?
It's a little bit of both. So the way that we're building our program is we are building it to be an NCAA program. We are not going to live in the club world for too long. Instead of jumping in the 12-foot section of the pool, we're going to jump in about the 5-foot section first, kind of get our feet wet, then go little by little. But the way that we're planning our program, it's going to be at the highest level from day one. The kids that we bring in are going to be all outsiders. I'm going to take a guess at maybe one or two kids that are currently enrolled in our university, outside from the one player who we've signed already, has ever played hockey before. Our fan base wants it, but I don't think they want to do it. Our fans are really into this. They want to go to games. They want to support. They'll go Friday night free skate with the team after, but I don't think there's many players or many students on the men's side or even on the women's side that are ready to play at Tennessee State. So it's a lot of heavy recruiting. The only difference is that we're not going to tell a player, hey, we're going to pay for you in athletic money. We're going to say to you, hey, you need to have really good SAT scores or ACT scores, or you have to have a certain GPA and to be admitted to the school. You're essentially a regular student that gets to play an extracurricular activity until you go to the varsity, when now you are an athlete and you live in the athlete world.
A lot of great hockey players out there, and as you said, it'll be a great opportunity for people of color to play at a high level, which is really nice to see. What has the response to this news been? We're talking ahead of the season because this is 2024-2025. The team is going to be hitting on the ice. I know prior to recording, you were doing a piece on CNN, which is great to see. What has the public response been to the launch of this new program?
It's been great. I would be a liar if I said that I didn't think there was going to be some people against this when we made the announcement. But from the North Nashville fan base of where we are at Tennessee State, I've seen nothing but people that are positive. They want jerseys. They want to buy T-shirts. They want to buy hats. We just had 7 inches of snow in Nashville, a record dropping last week. And everyone on social media is going, well, we're in that hockey team. I guess we got to start acting like we're Northerners now. But even outside of our network and outside of our community, I've heard from people up here in Canada and other countries that are saying, hey, that's great. We hear a lot of times about families that are coming up from the Caribbean and they come up to Canada for their kids to play the sport, and then they go on to play professionally. Jamaica, Haiti, and even those parents and those grandparents want stuff because they want to support the HBCU community, understanding that, yes, HBCUs are predominantly people of color for them to go to school. But not many people are kind of looking at me going, well, why are you doing this? Why don't you add baseball? Why aren't you add soccer? I haven't heard the ignorant comment of, well, black people don't play hockey. I've not heard that once from anybody. And that's the positive side of what we're doing. So I think what we're doing is kind of changing the world in that aspect to show that, like the NHL said, hockey is for everyone. What we're going to do at Tennessee State is prove it. And we're going to allow those types of people to come, get a great education, and hopefully win.
That's awesome to hear. You talk about hockey being for everyone. Certainly that is the goal. Make it for everyone. And it sounds like some of the heavy lifting's being done there down at Tennessee State. We wish you all the best when the program hits the ice. Thanks for telling us all about it, Nick. And again, best of luck going forward in the future.
Thanks very much.
That is Nick Guerriero. He is the Assistant Athletic Director for the Tennessee State University Tigers hockey team, which will debut in the 2024-2025 season at the club level with aspirations of moving up to Division I NCAA. You're listening to the intermission of Celtic Kubota, Cape Breton Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.